The demoralized Batista soldiers, restricted first to the towns and then to their own fortified barracks, found no military profit in venturing out, since the guerrillas would not stand and fight unless assured of overwhelming odds. On the other hand, the troops risked ambush and capture or death whenever they traveled, in less than company or even battalion strength. Slowly, lacking unified leadership, their communications destroyed, they allowed themselves to be sequestered. When the hour of decision came, most of them were on guard within their own isolated fortresses, controlling not even the towns they were supposed to defend. The army general staff and the government, meanwhile, had been shattered by a general crisis of nerves, with no member of the establishment able to trust another and each preparing to sell out or get out at the first sign of the regime's collapse. The loss of confidence in Batista had proceeded to such an extent that the ambassador of the all-powerful United States, on whom the Cuban economy depended and whose puppet the government was for all practical purposes, was in the process of negotiating with the political opposition, seeking a conservative alternative to Batista, when the latter precipitately fled the country along with his generals and the ranking members of his government. To summarize the Cuban Revolution in this way is to neglect the part played by the urban underground and the civic resistance movement, both of which contributed much in the way of strikes, demonstrations, sabotage, and propaganda work, to undermine the morale of the government and to destroy the prestige, without which it could no longer direct the economy nor continue to exist. Yet in the final analysis it was the guerrillas, waging a war of attrition, slowly nibbling away the rural areas, gradually expanding the free territories and building a military force with captured arms, while strangling the army in its barracks, whose action was decisive. Virtually all of the weapons to arm some 1,500 men, save a few hundred small arms smuggled in from the United States, were captured from Batista's troops, a few dozen or at most 100 at a time. The fall of the Oriente capital of Santiago put tanks and artillery into the hands of the rebels. Further surrenders in Las Villas gave them the means to confront any remaining army regiments that might have been disposed to fight. But by that time, Batista had already fled. A general strike had put Havana in insurgent hands. The principal garrison at Camp Columbia, outside the capital, had surrendered without firing a shot. The Navy had rebelled, and the war was over. And that concludes Chapter 3.